My name is Harper Lynn. I'm 33 years old. I'm a pediatric nurse at a regional hospital in Florence, Oregon, and most days I can tell the time by the sound of the tide hitting the seawall just beyond our street. The air here always smells like salt and wet stone, and the gulls cry like they're trying to warn us of something. Still, it's home. It's been home since Daniel passed away 5 years ago, and every routine I've built since then has kept us afloat. I have a 10-year-old son, Liam. He's why I get up, why I work the long shifts, and why I keep this old apartment running, even when the ceiling leaks or the heater coughs at night. Liam likes to draw quiet animals, owls, foxes, things with watchful eyes. Right now, one of his drawings is taped to the fridge. A dark-haired woman with tired eyes and a boy holding a glowing orange flashlight. Underneath, he wrote, "Us in the woods. You were not scared." I wasn't scared. Then I'm not sure what I am now. The call came just after I clocked out. I was still in my scrubs, standing in line at the grocery store with milk crackers and cold medicine in my arms. The phone buzzed in my pocket with a number I didn't recognize. I almost let it go to voicemail, but I answered. "Ms. Harper Lynn." The woman's voice was clipped efficient. "We're calling to inform you that your recent mortgage application with Cascadia Credit was declined due to an outstanding delinquent auto loan balance in your credit report." I blinked, heart-stalling mid-beat. "I'm sorry, what loan?" The voice paused. "A 2022 SUV loan in the amount of $36,408. It's been open for 8 months. We show 3 missed payments." I stepped out of line and into the narrow freezer aisle, the phone pressed to my cheek, breath fogging up the glass door beside me. I don't own an SUV. I haven't bought a car in over 5 years, not since Daniel passed and I sold the one we shared. I drive a 2009 sedan with a cracked headlight and 2 different door handles. "I think this is a mistake," I said slowly. "I haven't applied for any vehicle loan." "I understand," the woman replied. "But the loan is under your name, Social Security number, and current address. You'll need to file a dispute with the bureaus." I hung up with a trembling hand. My nurse badge clipped to my chest, reflected in the glass beside the row of frozen peas. I stared at it. I'd always worn it like a promise to care, to endure, to keep going. But right now, I felt like the ground had tilted just a little, not enough to fall, just enough to feel it shift beneath me. At home, Liam greeted me at the door barefoot and beaming, holding a paper airplane with math scribbles on one wing. "Mom, I finally got the angle right. It landed in the sink on purpose." I smiled, kissed the top of his head, and told him to wash up while I started dinner. I didn't mention the call. I didn't mention the way my chest had clenched, or the letter I'd received the week before about my mortgage denial. I'd thought maybe it was an error, a mismatch in income verification, but now it felt heavier, closer to the center of something I couldn't see yet. While pasta boiled, I went to the drawer beside the sink and pulled out the envelope I'd been avoiding for days, inside a single sheet from the bank. "Unfortunately, we are unable to approve your application at this time due to high-risk factors present in your credit profile." My profile, my name, my life. I sat down at the small kitchen table where Liam usually does homework, my fingers pressed against the edges of the paper until the corners curled. The window beside me rattled in the wind. I could hear the low hiss of the stove and the hum of the fridge beneath which Liam's picture swayed, slightly caught in the current of the heat vent. Daniel would have known what to do. He always did. He was practical and careful. And when he died in that crash on Highway 126, the payout from his life insurance was what kept us from slipping. I hadn't touched most of it, just enough to move us into this rental and pay off the last of the hospital debt. The rest I kept in a separate account. Protected, I thought. That insurance policy was sacred to me. It wasn't money. It was Daniel's last gesture of love. The idea that anything could have reached in and pulled from it made my stomach twist. I poured the pasta into the colander and stirred Liam's sauce on the stove. He sat at the table coloring, humming a song he'd made up, his socks mismatched and sliding on the floor tiles. I told him to get his reading log after dinner. He groaned. Later that night, after he fell asleep, I checked the mail I'd brought in junk flyers, a utilities notice. Then something else. A pre-approval letter. "Dear Harper Lynn, congratulations. You are pre-approved for up to $42,000 toward your next vehicle. Lock in this offer before January 30th. It listed the model 2022 Pacific Motors Glacier SUV, the same one from the phone call. I stood at the kitchen counter with the letter in my hand, the scent of dish soap rising from the sink. The edges of the paper blurred slightly in the overhead light. I reread it twice, then tucked it under the mortgage denial letter and placed them both in a manila envelope. I wrote a word on the front in pen. Watch. I looked around the kitchen, worn countertop chipped mug, the scuff mark on the wall where Liam had swung his backpack too hard last month. Everything I had, I'd built carefully, quietly, brick by brick, shift after shift. And someone was pulling pieces from underneath while smiling to my face. I didn't know exactly what was happening yet, but I knew this much. Someone was using my name, and they were about to find out I remembered everything. Looking back, I think it started the week after Daniel's funeral. The house was full of casseroles, people in jackets too nice for the weather, and muted conversations in corners. Liam kept asking if Daddy would be in the sky forever, or if he'd come down when he finished his job up there. I told him it would be a long time, but not forever. I said it like I believed it. Cole showed up that Tuesday late in the afternoon with flowers from the gas station and a six-pack he left on my back step. He walked in like he'd been carrying the weight of us all, tossing his coat on the couch and hugging me like he'd been holding grief in his pocket and just remembered to use it. "You okay, Harp?" he asked, eyes wide, voice soft. I nodded, but I wasn't. My hands were still trembling from writing thank you notes. My chest still ached from the sound of Liam crying in his sleep. The hours passed like mud, thick and slow, but Cole looked calm, collected. He said he wanted to help me get things in order, help me sort through the paperwork, make sure the insurance payout got handled properly. "Let me take care of it," he said, "just while you catch your breath." I didn't argue. I wanted to believe that someone would step in just for a while until I could stand up again. Cole has always been like that, charming, fast-talking. The kind of man who could make people laugh while writing down the wrong details. My parents always saw the best in him, even when he was falling short. Especially then. He dropped out of college his second year and blamed it on a professor's weird grading system. Took out a business loan for a woodworking company that lasted 4 months and ended in debt. My mom, Marlene, said he just needed space to find his lane. My dad, Roy, said boys like Cole take longer to settle. Me. I had Liam at 23. I worked night shifts through nursing school and bought my first car in cash. No one called that resilience. They called it doing what needed to be done. After Daniel died, Cole started visiting more often, which at first I was grateful for. He'd show up with takeout, sit on the porch with Liam, and talk like an uncle with answers. Then, one day a week before the insurance check arrived, he offered to help me sort through the mess. "You're too close to it," he said, handing me coffee in a ceramic mug that read, "Nurses need coffee." 2, I still have that mug. I used to think of it as a gesture of care. Now it feels like a souvenir from a show I didn't know I was watching. He had me sign a few forms. He said were for beneficiary routing and asset verification things. I didn't fully understand, but assumed were part of the process. I remember sitting at the kitchen table, the envelope open beside me, Liam asleep down the hall, and Cole saying, "Don't worry, I got it. I know how this stuff works." He didn't live here. He didn't know how often I had to stretch Daniel's paycheck, how many hours I picked up when Liam was sick, or what it cost to keep a broken light hidden from a landlord who charged by the hour. But I wanted to trust him. I wanted to believe someone could hold some of the weight. Marlene, my mother, was the one who reassured me. "Let your brother help Harper. He's not perfect, but he's trying. You shouldn't have to manage everything alone." Except I always had, and she had always let me. She used to say I was strong, but it never sounded like a compliment. It sounded like a reason not to check in. Cole was still finding himself. I was capable. That's how it worked in our house. Cole messed up and got rescued. I did well and got silence. Roy, my father, didn't say much. He was the kind of man who lived between newspaper pages and TV static. If Marlene set the tone, he just adjusted the volume. When Cole made mistakes, Roy defended them by omission. When I tried to speak up, he changed the subject. A few months after the insurance payout came through, I noticed the folder was lighter. I kept all of Daniel's paperwork in a clear plastic binder on the top shelf of the hallway closet: our marriage certificate, his will, hospital bills, the policy papers from Silver Bay Insurance. I opened it one afternoon, looking for the contact information for a financial advisor, and found one of the pages missing the payout confirmation letter from Silver Bay. I thought maybe I'd moved it. I searched the desk drawers, Liam's old art box, even the glove compartment of my car. Nothing. When I asked Cole, he shrugged. Must have gotten shuffled somewhere. It's all good, though. I made copies. But he never handed me the copies, and I didn't press. I told myself it didn't matter. The money was in the account. Things were stable. I'd check later. I didn't know it then, but that was the moment the wall started cracking. That same week, Marlene called to say Cole was thinking of starting another business, something about remodeling coastal rental properties. "You should talk to him," she said. "He really wants to do it right this time. Maybe you two could work something out." Work something out. I hung up the phone and stood in the kitchen for a long time. The photo of Daniel and me from our 5th anniversary hung on the fridge, slightly faded edges curling from steam and time. His arm was around my shoulder, his face soft and full. I was smiling, but my eyes looked tired. That was the last trip we took together before the accident. Florence had felt warm, then even under gray skies. I looked at the photo and tried to remember the exact day Cole handed me the mug I couldn't, but I remembered the weight of it in my hand and the way he smiled when he passed it over like a peace offering, like proof that he was stepping up. And I remember what I felt, though I didn't say it out loud. Relief. Not because I trusted him, but because I needed something to hold on to. That was the thing about grief. It made you soft in the places you used to protect. And if someone knew that about you, they could use it to take anything they wanted. Even your name, even your future, even the parts of a man you thought you'd buried in peace. It's Saturday morning when I finally walk into the bank. The building smells like printer toner and lemon-scented cleaning wipes. Behind the counter, the teller greets me with the same rehearsed smile I've seen every month when I deposit Liam's savings from birthday cards and grocery change. But today, I don't walk to her. I ask to speak with a manager. In a small glass office, the assistant branch manager reviews my file. Her name is Andrea. Her glasses catch the light as she tilts her head, scanning the screen. "You said you haven't opened any new lines of credit in the past year," she asks. "No," I reply, my voice quiet. "Only my regular checking savings and Liam's account." Andrea clicks through tabs, frowning. "Well, we're showing 5 recent applications tied to your Social Security number. One of them's a closed file for a property loan in Eugene approved last June. That loan is active." I feel something hollow open in my chest. I don't own a house in Eugene. She pauses. "The property's titled Under Your Name. Single signature authorization. It was purchased using a portion of funds from a joint account set up in April. It lists a trustee, Cole Lynn." The room seems to get smaller. "I never signed off on that. I don't have a joint account with Cole." Andrea glances at me carefully now. "Do you have a moment to verify your identity? If it really wasn't you, we'll need to initiate a fraud protocol." I hand her my ID and try to keep my breathing steady. The printer behind her kicks on, spitting out sheets of transaction logs. Names, dates, my address, my birthday, my social everything. Exactly right, except the choices being made. Back home, I sit at the table and unfold the mortgage denial letter again. The crease lines are soft now from being handled too many times. I lay it beside the new documents Andrea printed. There's no question anymore. Someone used my information. Someone opened accounts in my name, used my husband's insurance payout, and bought property with a loan I didn't authorize. And that someone is my brother. I stare at the last page property transfer verification with Cole's name and mine side by side. Same last name, different purposes. Later that evening, I call my mother. She answers on the second ring, cheerful Harper. "Hey, I was just about to call you. Did you know about the house in Eugene?" A pause. "Then what house?" "The one you helped Cole buy, the one in my name." The line goes quiet. "Marlene," I say again, "don't lie to me." Her tone shifts. Defensive. "It wasn't like that. Cole said he'd spoken to you. He said you agreed to help with the paperwork. He needed a guarantor just on paper. No one meant to do anything wrong. I close my eyes. You knew, I whisper. You knew he used my name and you said nothing. We were trying to protect what Daniel left you, she says, voice hardening. You weren't thinking straight back then. You had a child to raise. We all thought it was best if Cole helped manage the fund before you spent it on something short-term. I laugh, but it's dry. It sounds like a cough. You thought I'd misuse the insurance money. She doesn't answer. I hang up. The next day, I drive to their house. My parents live in a ranch-style home tucked between 2 rows of tall pine, the paint slightly peeled but the flower beds perfectly trimmed. Cole's truck is in the driveway. Inside, the smell of cinnamon and coffee fills the air. My father sits at the table reading the paper. My mother's rinsing dishes. Cole is leaning against the kitchen counter like he owns the place. He grins when he sees me. Hey, Harp, thought you'd come by. I hold out the printed papers. I say nothing. He takes them slowly, eyes scanning the top page. That was supposed to stay quiet, he mutters. You're blowing this up for no reason. My jaw tightens. You used my name. You opened accounts. I didn't sign. You moved money that wasn't yours. You're being dramatic. You still have most of it. It wasn't yours to touch, I say louder now. That money was Daniel's final gift to Liam and me. You stole it. It wasn't stealing. It was family management. That word family, it lands like gravel. I remember the day you borrowed my laptop, I say. You said you needed to check your email. I went to put Liam to bed, and when I came back, the screen was locked. You smiled like nothing happened. He shrugs. You left everything open. I trusted you, I say. You were grieving. I nod, slowly absorbing it. My father clears his throat. Maybe we could all sit down and talk this through. No need to bring lawyers into it. It's a misunderstanding. I look at the coffee mug in his hand, ceramic chipped on the side. It's the one he drinks from every morning. Right now it's sitting on my kitchen counter too. He brought it over last week when he stopped by to check on us. Now I see it for what it was, a routine planted to remind me they still had access. A presence I didn't ask for. No, I say it's not a misunderstanding. I leave the papers on the counter. I don't yell, I don't plead, I just walk out. Back home, I sit beside Liam while he does his homework. He asks me if I want to help color the sky in his picture. I pick up the crayon and draw soft gray lines, then darker ones near the edge. Rain clouds, he says. But the cabin under the clouds stays dry. After he goes to sleep, I pull out the envelope where I've stored everything. The mortgage letter, the car loan offer, the Eugene deed. I begin organizing them by date. I make copies. I start a folder on my computer. Password protected, encrypted. For years, I've worked in a hospital where every mistake must be documented, every medicine double-checked, every ID badge scanned twice. Now I know why. Someone's always watching, and sometimes they use what they see to take what you won't even realize is missing until it's already gone. The suspension came 2 days after I confronted Cole. It started with a phone call from HR. They said there was an alert on my professional license tied to a fraud report from a state lending institution, a flagged identity open credit lines, and a contested mortgage. They didn't accuse me, but they couldn't ignore it either. I was placed on administrative leave, effective immediately pending a review. I stood in the hallway of the pediatric wing while the voice on the phone recited policy. My hands were still warm from holding a toddler's hand through an asthma attack. I had just promised a parent I'd return in 5 minutes with a better oxygen mask. Instead, I turned in my badge and walked out through the automatic doors, the same ones I'd walked through every shift for 8 years. When I got home, there was an envelope taped to the apartment door. Final notice payment, delinquency. Notice to vacate. It wasn't for my current lease. It was for the house in Eugene, the one I never lived in. Because it was in my name, my credit was frozen. Because my credit was frozen, my landlord didn't renew my lease. The next week moved like fog. I boxed up Liam's clothes and our dishes. I sold a few things I couldn't carry his bike. Our second-hand dining table, the framed photo of the ocean Daniel had taken the year before he died. We moved into a 1-bedroom rental on the edge of town. It had green carpet, a flickering hallway light, and a cracked bathroom mirror. I didn't argue. I just signed the papers. Liam didn't ask much, not at first. He carried his stuffed turtle and his school bag into the apartment and looked around like it was temporary, like we were camping. The first night he asked if we were going to get our old place back. I told him no. The second night he asked if I could leave a light on in the hallway. I said yes. The third night he crawled into bed beside me and whispered, "Are we going to be okay?" I didn't answer. I didn't know how. Instead, I got up and went to the kitchen. I opened the drawer and took out the yellow legal pad I had bought on instinct the day after I found out about the Eugene house. I wrote the date at the top of the page. Underneath it, I started a list. Mortgage denial, January 12th. Cascade credit call, January 15th. Eugene property discovery, January 21st. Conversation with Marlene, January 23rd. Confrontation with Cole, January 23rd. HR call from hospital, January 25th. Eviction notice, January 26th. I didn't stop there. I listed every message, every phrase, every apology wrapped in threat. You weren't thinking straight. We didn't want you to waste it. It's still your money. You just don't know how to use it. Every time someone said I was overreacting, I wrote it down. Every time someone said I was being emotional, I wrote that too. When you work in a hospital, you learn that documentation can mean the difference between care and liability. If it's not written, it didn't happen. If it's not recorded, it doesn't exist. I had spent years writing progress notes, measuring medication doses, noting symptoms in the margins of patient charts. Now I turned that skill on my life. I printed the property transfer records. I photographed the Eugene house from the public listing site. I gathered voicemail recordings, bank letters, and texts. I made copies and kept the originals in a fireproof bag under the mattress. One evening, I plugged in the lamp from our old apartment. It sparked once, then flickered off. I checked the bulb. It wasn't the bulb. It was the socket. The lamp had been with me since before Liam was born. I unplugged it and set it in the corner. Some things didn't make it through the move. Marlene left a message. Her voice was soft the way it got when she wanted to smooth things over. "You don't need to take this out on all of us. Harper Cole was only trying to help. We didn't think you'd respond this way. Let's talk. You know your father's worried." I didn't delete the message. I wrote it down. There's something about being alone that sharpens everything. I stopped apologizing. I stopped asking questions I already knew the answers to. The pity in their voices wasn't real concern. It was surprise that I had noticed what they were doing. At the new apartment, I turned Liam's drawings into wallpaper. I taped them along the edge of the wall where the heater hummed unevenly. He drew animals again this time, an owl in a storm perched on a ledge. I asked what it was doing. "Waiting," he said. "It's not scared. It's just waiting for the wind to stop." The wind didn't stop, but I stopped trying to explain myself to people who had already decided what I was. I stopped trying to protect the story of our family when they hadn't protected me. I didn't scream. I didn't throw things. I just wrote everything down. The legal pad filled quickly. I bought another, then a small file box, then a lockbox for backup copies. My bank accounts were closed. My credit was damaged. My job was uncertain. But I still had a name. I still had a signature. I still had facts. I held on to them like rope. Every time Liam asked if we were going to be okay, I nodded. I didn't speak. I didn't want to lie. But I kept writing. Because if I lost everything else, I would still have the record. And sometimes the record is the only thing that can't be taken. It's a nurse from the cardiac wing who makes the referral. Her sister-in-law is a fraud investigator in Eugene who specializes in estate-related identity cases. We pass each other in the supply closet, and she glances at the yellow legal pad sticking out of my bag. I haven't told her much, just a sentence here or there between shifts, but she sees the exhaustion in my face. "Her name's Jeanette," she says, scribbling a number on a medication log. "She helped a patient's daughter after her uncle took everything. If you're writing that much down, it means you have something worth looking into." I call Jeanette the next day. Her voice is calm and curious, low but alert. She asks questions slowly, one at a time, and lets me answer fully. We set an appointment for the following Tuesday at her office. She meets me at the door with a firm handshake and a clipboard already half filled with fields she's prepped based on our phone call. Her office is small but ordered binders along every wall, 2 screens on her desk, a locked cabinet in the corner. I place the file box on the table and open the lid. This is everything I say. I've logged it in sequence chronology on the left, documents on the right, screenshots, audio, bank letters. Jeanette nods and slips on her glasses. I'll start with the policy, she says. We begin with the insurance payout, Daniel's final act. Jeanette finds the original policy in the blue folder I've kept sealed for years. She scans the first few lines silently, then flips to the amendment clause. This document has been refiled, she says. I freeze. What do you mean, refiled? The original payout was set to be held in a protected trust until Liam turned 18. The custodian named was you, but this one she lifts a second, nearly identical sheet from the same folder lists. Cole Lynn as financial co-executor, signed 3 months after Daniel's funeral. I shake my head. I didn't sign that. You didn't, but someone did. Jeanette shows me the signature. It's clean, professional, slightly off in the curl of the Y in Lynn. She turns to her monitor and runs it through a handwriting comparison tool. We pull up my signature from my driver's license, then from Liam's school registration. The results come back in seconds. 89% mismatch. Next, she opens a digital folder. I reached out to Silver Bay Insurance yesterday after reviewing your intake notes. They confirmed a series of account changes were submitted online in mid-May. The access logs came from a static IP address traced to a residence in Florence. She looks up. Your parents' house. I say nothing. My hands are flat against my jeans. Jeanette pulls up a new screen, a timeline. Each entry stamped and sourced. April 3rd. Power of attorney document created with forged signature. April 15th. Cole lists himself as co-executor. May 9th. Roy Lynn co-signs a verification letter for account restructuring. May 12th. Insurance fund partially liquidated $120,000 redirected to a shell account. May 18th. New construction loan application filed June 2nd. Mortgage loan in Eugene issued Harper Lynn listed as primary applicant. The room is quiet. My breath is shallow. Jeanette doesn't soften her tone, and I don't want her to. I need every word to land like truth. They built this across 6 months, she says. This wasn't an accident or a misunderstanding. This was a plan. I nod once. She stands and walks to her file cabinet, then returns with a flash drive. There's something else. I submitted a subpoena request for bank surveillance footage connected to a flagged login on your account. You said Cole used your laptop once during a Thanksgiving visit. Yes, in the kitchen I was putting Liam to bed. She plugs in the drive and pulls up the footage. We watch as Cole, dressed in a gray hoodie, opens a laptop, signs into a portal, and types for several minutes. He glances around, then he inserts a USB drive into the side slot. 32 minutes pass. He ejects it, deletes the browser history, and closes the lid. Timestamp, November 24, 9:41 p.m. I stare at the screen arms folded across my chest. I gave him my password, I say flatly. He said he needed to print directions to a job site. Jeanette clicks through more screens. Email trails, bank verifications, internal alerts ignored. It builds into a web. Not just Cole's fingerprints, but my parents'. Your mother co-signed 2 notarized documents from her address. One authorized secondary account access. The other authorized withdrawal from the trust without primary account holder confirmation. She told me she didn't know anything about it. Jeanette closes the screen. She knew. I sit back, the edges of my vision blurring slightly. There's a sound inside me, something like glass being set down too hard. Jeanette slides a summary folder across the table. I can prepare an affidavit, a full report for the Financial Crimes Unit, and a file for your civil attorney. But this is going to court. You have enough for a fraud case, identity theft, and trust violation. They won't be able to walk this back. I nod again, not out of agreement, but because it's the only motion I can make. At home that night, I sit with the flash drive in my palm. The metal is cold. Beside me, Liam is drawing a hedgehog in a hat. He looks up at me and smiles. Do you want me to draw you too? He asks. I nod. Make sure I have a big coat. Why? In case it gets cold. He adds a long brown coat and a purple scarf. Then he draws a small shield in my hand. What's that, I ask. It's a shield, he says, in case someone tries to take your name again. I tuck the drive into my coat pocket and press it close to my chest. He doesn't know what happened. Not really. But somehow he knows exactly what matters. I file the paperwork on a Monday morning. I hand it to the clerk at the county courthouse, a quiet building near the edge of downtown with gray stone steps and a door that sticks when it closes. The folder is thick, labeled, and color-coded. Everything inside it is backed by timestamps, letters, voice messages, and signed declarations. Nothing speculative, no accusations, just facts. The clerk stamps the top page. The ink bleeds slightly through the paper. Received, it says. I walk out holding that page like a certificate. The wind picks up as I reach the bottom of the courthouse steps, but my hands don't shake. Not this time. That afternoon, I email the same file to the Human Resources office at the hospital. I include a cover letter written with a clarity I didn't think I was capable of a few months ago. I attach Jeanette's affidavit, the property transfer records, and the investigator's summary of digital manipulation. I also send in a notarized declaration of identity, the first legal document I've signed with complete confidence in a long time. My phone rings the next morning at 9:12. Ms. Lynn, my supervisor says we've reviewed the documents you submitted. Your record is clear. Your suspension has been lifted effective immediately. We'd be glad to have you return if you're ready. I'm ready, I tell her I'll see her Thursday morning. She sounds relieved. When I hang up, I stare at the screen for a long moment. It's not joy I feel. It's something smaller, steadier, like balance. I print out the email chain and add it to a new folder labeled Clean Slate. It's white. Nothing inside it belongs to anyone else. 2 days later, I receive a voicemail from my father. His voice is slow measured. Harper, we heard from someone at the courthouse. It's not too late to talk this through. We didn't mean for this to get messy. Let's resolve this privately without dragging things further. Family deserves that much. He doesn't say what they did. He doesn't mention my name. An hour later, a message from my mother, softer, more pleading. We made mistakes. You were hurting. We thought we were helping. Cole never meant for things to go this far. If we go to court, it'll ruin everything. Let's fix this together. I listen to both messages once I save them, then I do not call back. Instead, I open a new bank account with a new password. I update all my security questions. I add two-factor authentication to everything I own. I call Silver Bay Insurance and speak directly with a regional officer. I explain what happened and what's being filed. They freeze all remaining funds tied to my previous account and open an investigation into the policy change submitted last spring. I request my full credit report from all 3 major bureaus. I dispute every unauthorized inquiry. I place a security alert on my file and link it to a fraud case number. I change the locks on our apartment. I install a camera at the front door and another above the hallway. I explain to Liam that it's just for safety. He nods and doesn't ask questions. I spend hours resetting logins, utility bills, school portals, medical access points. Every entry point is checked, changed, and tracked. On Thursday, I walk through the automatic doors of the hospital again. My badge beeps against the scanner. The doors open without hesitation. Inside, the air smells like alcohol wipes and lemon cleaner, and the halls echo with shoes and clipped voices. It's familiar and sterile, but for the first time in months, I feel present in it. My coworkers greet me with nods and short smiles. No one asks questions. I see it in their eyes. Quiet support, not pity, and I'm grateful for that. At lunch, I sit alone in the break room and take the new ID badge from around my neck. It's laminated, sharp-cornered, untouched. The photo is recent, taken just last week when I updated my records. I look tired in it, but I also look clear. This badge is mine. No one else has access to it. No one else controls where it goes or what doors it opens. That evening, I sort through the mail. A letter from the court confirms that my civil suit has been filed and accepted. A separate letter confirms the restraining order. Cole, Marlene, and Roy are prohibited from contacting me directly or indirectly. If they do, it becomes a criminal matter. I place both letters into the clean slate folder. For the first time since Daniel died, I sleep for 7 hours without waking. The heater hums softly. Liam breathes steady beside the wall where his drawings now stretch to the corner of the room. Owls foxes a new one, a turtle in a helmet holding a flag. In the morning, I find him standing by the window, looking out at the sidewalk. "Did you lock the door?" he asks. "Yes," I say, "and there's a camera now. You're safe." He nods. "Do they know we know?" "Yes," I say again, "they know." He presses his face against the glass. "Are you going to fight them?" I already am. Later that day, I drive past the courthouse again. I don't go in. I just look at the building, the narrow windows, the security camera above the door. I think about how many people walk into that place trying to prove something that should never have been taken from them in the first place. Then I drive home. Not because it's over, but because I know finally that it's begun. The settlement came through on a gray morning in March. Rain was falling in sheets across the front window of the courthouse, and the judge spoke with a clipped efficiency that made the words feel smaller than they were. Cole had forfeited assets to avoid criminal prosecution. The Eugene house was sold at a loss, and the remaining balance of what was left of Daniel's insurance fund, what hadn't been eaten away by fake business accounts and loan interest, was wired to a new trust, this time in Liam's name, with me as the sole custodian. The check they handed me was $228,000. No apology, no admission, just a settlement statement with numbers and lines and my name at the top. This time, the signature underneath it was mine. I recognized every letter of it. I didn't cry. I didn't feel triumphant. It felt like closing a book that had been left open in the rain. The pages were still there, but warped, unmistakably changed. 3 weeks later, Liam and I moved into a rental cabin just outside Yakats, not far from the sea. The property sat on a small hill with moss-covered steps and one wide kitchen window. The place was smaller than what we'd had in Florence, but there was a patch of dirt out back where I could plant things and enough quiet to hear the waves at night. The first night there, I unpacked the rusted wind chime Daniel bought at a yard sale during our last trip to the coast. It had hung in our old home until the accident. After that, I packed it away. The rust had dulled the shine, and one of the bells was missing. Still, I cleaned it gently with vinegar and wire, restrung the broken loop, and hung it beside the door. It made a soft sound when the breeze picked up. Not sharp. Just enough to let you know you were home. Liam adjusted faster than I expected. He found a new library branch, made friends with a kid 2 cabins over, and started drawing whales and storm clouds again. Some nights, I'd find him asleep with his sketch pad open on his chest, pencils still clutched in his fingers. His breathing was even, his face peaceful. The bags under his eyes faded first, then the silence during meals, then the habit of flinching when the phone rang. I hadn't realized how much weight he'd been carrying with me until I saw it start to lift. I began my own kind of healing by writing. Not long essays, not letters to anyone, just a list of truths. I bought a simple spiral notebook at the grocery store and labeled it January, First Lie. Each month got a page. Not of what they did, but what I learned. January. If someone doesn't say your name when they're explaining your choices, they never saw you in the first place. February. Forgiveness is not owed, especially when someone calls theft a misunderstanding. March. You can walk away from people who raised you. It's not betrayal, it's survival. I didn't write every day. I didn't force the lessons out. I let them come as they wanted, like ocean waves that returned only when the tide allowed. There were days I didn't open the notebook at all. Other days, I wrote 3 lines and closed it without rereading. The garden grew slowly, too. I planted basil, rosemary, and thyme in mismatched ceramic pots near the back fence. The soil wasn't ideal, and sometimes the wind pulled loose the top leaves, but I stayed patient with it. I checked the roots each week. When a basil sprout finally pushed through, I clipped a single leaf and placed it on the windowsill beside the kitchen sink. That leaf meant more to me than the settlement. It was something I had grown, not inherited, not stolen, not reshaped to fit someone else's need. Just mine. My parents never called again. After the court proceedings, they moved out of Florence. I heard from someone at the hospital that they sold their house and were starting fresh. whatever that meant. I didn't reach out. I didn't look them up. Cole disappeared entirely. I knew he was still in Oregon somewhere, likely under a new job title, maybe trying to rebuild, but he hadn't tried to contact me. The restraining order made that legally unwise. But even if he had, I wouldn't have answered. People talk about closure like it's an event, a verdict, a conversation. But for me, it came in smaller moments, like the silence of a morning when no more letters arrived, or the way Liam laughed without watching me first, like he was checking to see if it was allowed. I learned that closure isn't granted, it's chosen. And I chose it every time I walked through my front door and felt the wind chime move, every time I swept the porch, every time I threw away another piece of paper with my name printed wrong. The world kept moving. I returned to work part-time, then full-time. I changed my phone number. I kept the cameras on the new house, but I stopped checking the footage I didn't need to. Nothing about this home felt borrowed. And every night before bed, I wrote one small line in the notebook. A closing sentence, a thread tied off. Some nights it was as simple as, today I kept everything that was mine. Some nights it was just safe. One night I wrote, I am not afraid to be forgotten by people who never really saw me. And I meant it. Because no one said sorry. And no one had to. I didn't need their remorse. I needed my name back, my voice, my sense of shape in the world. And once I had those again, there was nothing they could take from me. Not anymore. If you're listening to this, I want to say something to you, not as someone who survived something terrible, but as someone who almost let it all slide by unnoticed. You don't owe anyone your silence. Not your brother, not your parents, not anyone who says we're family while they take what you've built and call it theirs. I used to think trust was automatic, that it came with blood or grief or time. That if someone was in the room with you when you fell apart, they earned a place beside you when you started again. But now I know the truth. Trust isn't inherited. It's documented. And once it's broken, it needs more than apologies to be rebuilt. It needs proof, paper accountability. I was too tired to notice at first. That's how they got in. When Daniel died, I was stretched thin. I had a toddler, a grave to plan, and a future that felt like an empty hallway. Cole didn't break in. He waited for the door to be left open. He smiled. He said all the right things, and so did my parents. That's what betrayal looks like when it wears family's face. Not a loud explosion, a quiet suggestion, a helpful hand, a shift in the paperwork. So let me tell you what I wish someone had told me. Check your credit, even when you think you don't need to. Keep a folder of every document with your name on it. Watch your accounts, save your emails, ask questions, even if they make the room uncomfortable, especially then. If you've lost someone, don't hand over the aftermath like it's too heavy to hold. You can carry it. You don't have to do it all alone, but you do have to know where the pieces are, who's touching them, and how they're moving. And if someone tells you you're being paranoid or dramatic or difficult for asking for clarity, ask again, then write it down. I know that's not how we were raised. Some of us were taught that family is unconditional, that blood is sacred, that asking for boundaries is an insult, but love without consent isn't love. It's control. I've started saying this to Liam. If they don't ask how it affects you, it's not love. And I mean it. Real love doesn't require blindness. It invites sight. Real care doesn't happen behind your back. It happens beside you. When I look back at everything they did, opening accounts, forging signatures, moving funds, I still don't understand how they justified it to themselves. Maybe they told each other I couldn't handle the responsibility. Maybe they convinced themselves I wouldn't notice. Maybe they really believed they were doing me a favor. But none of that changes what happened, and none of it makes it mine to forgive. Because forgiveness isn't a pass, it's a decision, and mine hasn't arrived. But clarity has. Now I keep a locked file cabinet near my desk. It's labeled, Keep Inside. It are records, documents, printed emails, notarized statements. I don't obsess over them, but I know they're there. And that's enough. On the fridge, Liam's latest drawing shows a house on a hill. There's a woman standing on the porch holding a pen like a sword. In the background there are trees and stars and a sky that's open, not closed. When I asked what she was doing, he said, "She's writing a story that nobody else gets to change." And that's exactly what I'm doing now. Tonight, I sit by the window. The wind is soft. The basil plant is starting to stretch. I open my notebook and write one final sentence at the bottom of the page. They took my name, but I took back everything. And if you've made it this far, I hope you do too. In the end, Harper's story is not just about stolen money or forged signatures. It is about reclaiming what cannot be priced: dignity, voice, and the right to be seen. She was overlooked, underestimated, and nearly erased by the people she trusted most. But through quiet resilience and careful truth, she rebuilt herself, one document, one decision at a time. This journey reminds us that independence is not always loud. Sometimes it grows in silence, rooted in self-respect. If you have ever felt unseen or silenced, let Harper's story be a reminder you are not alone and your voice matters. If this story spoke to you, please take a moment to share your thoughts in the comments, or subscribe for more stories about strength, justice, and healing from betrayal. Your story might be the next one someone needs to hear.